Hello and welcome everyone to this special edition of the Three Wise Men podcast. We have actually a fourth guy joining us today because we're going to talk about Manchester United. So we have Sharan Gopal who's joining us from Raleigh. Sharan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been supporting United?
Uh, Hey, Arvind. Thanks for the introduction. So my name is Sharan. I've been a United fan for, I don't know, maybe 14 years now. So uh, I'm excited to talk on the day that we just won the FL trophy. So, yeah, go ahead with it.
Nice. I want to start off with something that's very unique to United, the traditions that United is known for. And Sharan, I know you have a scarf with some of the original colors and all that. Tell us a little bit about. So most of us have been watching football since maybe 2000 and watching the Premier League since then. Tell us like the last 120 years of United in a nutshell. How was what happened? What is United known for since then?
Cool. If you want to go all the way back to the start, then cool. 1878 is when we were formed as Newton Heath LYR. Uh, it came Manchester United in, I think, 1902, if I've got my history correct, when we changed our colors to red and black. Uh, the most important thing to know about our history is that we have a great path of bringing through our own talent, where we've been pioneers at almost every stage in English football. We were the first that defied the FA to go and enter the European Championship, and also the first English club to win it. So there's a rich tradition there of bringing through our own players and playing football in an attractive attacking fashion. Uh, there have been a couple of men who molded the identity of the club. Most importantly, Sir Matt Busby, who sort of laid the groundwork for the club and how the club should be, and and how how he'd like things to go about at the club. Sir Alex Ferguson came in 1986 and carried forward the same traditions, and we've had great success in England and Europe thanks to the two men.
So, Siddharth, I'd like to pull you in. Talk to us about the 92 group of players, and in some ways, even around the 2010 timeframe when Smalling and Cleverly and Welbeck got promoted. Talk to us a little bit about the same traditions that have been going on for so long, where a lot of youth products have been promoted and successfully promoted to the first team.
Yeah, so the academy pretty much became famous with what is called the class of 92. I mean, everyone knows who they were. But yeah, it has continued ever since. United are known to bring up or give chances to academy players. Um, I mean, besides those seven players, we haven't really had the same level of success. You mentioned what Cleverly and the others, Januzaj, but consistently, Sir Alex and David Moyes and Van Gaal and even Mourinho now, we have given chances to players, and that's apparent with what Lingard and Rashford, who both played a crucial part in today's final, and the fact that managers trust players like the younger players to actually start in cup finals. So that says a lot, I guess.
Excellent. Coming from a club that is not supporting United, it is something that is very enviable the way so many youth products come through the ranks, and United are known for through the Alex Ferguson era of buying a couple of players every transfer window, but also promoting from within. Shannon, tell us how the last 5 years have gone ever since Van Persie joined, with Ferguson retiring. How has the club transitioned in the last 5 years?
So, just to add to what said and what Sharan said, there's this crazy stat that in United have had a youth academy player, right, in the matchday squad since October of 1937. So, just to just to think how far back that tradition goes. Um, but coming to your question, it's been up and down. What I love Sir Alex Ferguson, but one thing I would say that he sort of deviated from the youth policy uh, in the later years of last decade, and then even the last couple of years of his reign was he moved away from promoting or giving regular chances to youth players, and there were a couple of reasons for that. One was we weren't creating that many players that could be given chances. Welbeck is one of them. Johnny Evans is other, but other than that, maybe cleverly to an extent. But you don't really think of too many youth players that have come through, with great quality. And other reason was, the Glazers. They were tightening the purse strings, and United needed to keep winning to stay competitive. And those were the two reasons that maybe from like 2009 to maybe 2013, 2014, we weren't giving chances to that many youngsters. Van Gaal did that to great effect, but again, it was because of too many injuries in the squad. He gave chances to Varela and Rashford
Hmm.
and Lingard, but again, that was because there were a lot of first teamers that were missing. But it's great to see Mourinho continue that. He's not known for that, but it's great to see Mourinho doing that. Uh, trusting Lingard in a cup final, and also Rashford. He's played like 50 games in a year, so that's good to see. It. I think there are good signs going forward, though.
Quickly, I want to add that a class of '92 is a freak. That you have 7 or 8 players coming up together of that level. That was all of them coming up together was a freak. You'll never have that again. I highly doubt that. So, yeah, I'd take 1 or 2 players every year out of the academy. That'll be progress.
And this Shannon's latest point is a good way to segue into the next question. Sharon, I want to get you in and ask you, how do you sum up this season so far? And before you interject, I wanted to add that since the Chelsea United game, if you look at the table for the last 16 games, United are
Hmm.
second with 34 points. Chelsea are first with 41. But compared to Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Spurs, United have been doing better than all of them. How do you sum up this season? Do you sum it up as a sum of two parts? They're still competitive in
In
four places.
in one word, I'd say positive. If I had to sum it up in one word, I'd say positive. Plainly because our performances have improved. We're doing everything right other than scoring the goals that we need to score. We're getting all the way to the end and just not converting. I'm sure the only thing Mourinho can do is come onto the pitch and score, I guess. But I think as a manager, he has turned it around from the last 3 years uh, after Fergie. So credit where credit is due. Uh, the most, I think it started off with a bang wherein he just came in and we made all the important signings that we needed. So that was just Mourinho being decisive, and that's something we're used to. Uh, Granted, of course, now again we're back in a good position to challenge for the top four. That is not our aim, of course. We're not Arsenal, but it's a good position to be in. We're challenging in the Europa Cup. We're still in the FA Cup. League title is probably a bit of a stretch for us, but it's good to know that we're within touching distance of the top teams now, and uh, Old Trafford is a fortress again. So that I would say is definitely a huge positive. Teams do fear coming to Old Trafford again, and we've got a consistent style of playing, and we're looking solid. So
So just to add, the second half of the season, uh,
mhm.
if I know my facts correctly, United have only played Liverpool of the other top five clubs. Uh, so there's still a lot of important games left. Sid, did you want to add anything to the earlier point that Sharan made?
Right. I just want to. So you and I were just talking earlier today. Sharan made a very good point. He says that it's positive. I think that was what has been. That's what's been missing since Ferguson left. Um, we didn't want to watch a Van Gaal team play. Uh, Moyes was pretty much defensive as well. And Mourinho, up until that Chelsea game, was very defensive. He wasn't going all out. And since that Chelsea game, he's he's kind of switched to the traditional United way, where he has left and right wingers bombing down the flanks, putting in crosses, a target man scoring. So a positive is kind of the right way. It's good to watch. There's progress.
Let's get a little more detail into specific players. Sid, what do you think is happening at the left back position for United?
Oh, I think we're just kind of getting through the season. It's no one's kind of established themselves um, at that spot. Mourinho's almost played a new player at the left back position in every game with Damian and Blind and Rojo today. I still it still puzzles me why he's not giving Shaw um, a good chance to earn a spot. Um, so it's a problem. That is a given, and there's four players fighting for the spot. If it were up to me, I don't think Rojo has the general footballing sense to you know play in any position. Leave alone left back. I mean, we saw it today. He doesn't know how to uh, go up the flank. If he goes up the flank, he doesn't know how to get back. All he knows is to knock the ball away. That's all he does, and that he gets past that playing at centre back, but you can't do that at left back. Secondly, Dali Blind is good, but you can't be you can't get away with being slow in the left back position. You can get away with being slow in the midfield or centre back. So that's the second contender for that spot. Darmian, I'm not a big fan of Darmian. He's a great person. He's a good player. I think he's a good backup. He's right-footed, so he's not naturally left-suited to the left back position. So I think he's a good backup. Again, I don't know why I'm biased towards Luke Shaw, but I think he is the answer to the left back position for United and England going ahead. And the only way he can get better is to get game time, which he hasn't been getting. So honestly, I'm just scared for him that the fact that he's not playing, he might be frozen out of United.
It might be because you got a picture with him in San Jose. But talking about personnel, Shannon, I'd like to get you back in. What do you think of United's style of play going forward with Mkhitaryan on the right wing? What do you think of the style of play in general compared to the last 3-4 years?
So for sure, I think we are playing like the best football we have in since possibly Sir Alex Ferguson's last season. That season was you score two, we score one more than you, right? So it was all out attack, didn't care about what was happening. It was just all guns blazing, and Van Persie was in such sublime form. Uh, since then, Moyes was a little clueless. Van Gaal was very rigid and very defensive minded. So it's refreshing to see to get back to that old United style of play. And what's really been good to see is with Mourinho switching it around. Like after we spoke about the Chelsea game at length, and after that game, he brought Herrera and Carrick in to give Pogba that extra freedom, and so we had a more like a 4-3-3 formation. And there have been times more recently where he's had Pogba push up a little, so just have one defensive midfielder in Herrera, more like a 4-1-4-1 sort of thing. And then he's had Mkhitaryan play as a pure number 10. And, he dovetails well with smart players like Mata and Martial. So there have been these minute tactical changes that are, again, very refreshing to see, to be from all the rigidity we have seen during the Van Gaal era. So for me, the football's been immensely better. It's so much more enjoyable. There's a structure to the defense, but there's a fluidity in attack.
Great point. So Sharan, anything to add to that real quick? 30 seconds?
Yeah, if I could add to what Shannon said, I think we've traditionally we've always had a solid core. We've had an excellent centre-back pairing. We've had a good, solid midfield and a good attack. I can see signs of that coming back. We have exciting players on the wings. We have a lot of pace. We have youth, and I think the day our season started turning around is when Mourinho decided to finalize his midfield three, or sort of get a fixed plan around how his midfield should be. That has really helped the core of the team. Also, with the consistent pairing of Jones and Rojo at the time, I think that helped us. So going back to our traditional way of having a solid core with exciting talent around them is, I think, what's taking us forward and how it's going to shape up for us as well this season.
Um, I want to ask you guys a question now that we're talking about the centre backs and the way we play. Um, what do you guys think, or who do you think is the answer to the second centre back position? Um, Mourinho has almost moved everyone around with Jones and Rojo, and I honestly thought Smalling would be the answer, but I mean, as Shannon put it earlier, he was shitting bricks today. Whenever he had the ball with him, he didn't know what to do. He was trembling. Who do you think will fit well with Bai, or even that can be a new Bai as well?
Anything, Sharan?
Um, yeah. So center back is a bit of a tricky position for us. I like you. I would have also expected Smalling to be a bit more of a leader by this stage. He's been around for a while. Same for Jones as well. I do think they have good talent, and at one point everyone thought they were going to be a centre back pairing going forward, but it doesn't look like the two of them together have the decisiveness or the leadership skills to command an entire defense and provide the stability at the back. Bai definitely looks like a signing for the future. He has a talent. He just needs to remove some of the rough edges, and he definitely looks like someone who could take us forward. Rojo, I would not like to waste time talking about at this point as a centre back. Maybe as a left back, okay, but he did in his defense. To his credit, he did well with Jones. That they had a good period in the defense, so that worked well for them as a pairing. But I do feel that if none of our defenders can come up with the leadership skills that is required to be at the back, I would fear for their future. Because Mourinho, as a manager, is extremely decisive, and for him, a centre back is an extremely important position. So I would fear for the future if I was any one of them and didn't show a consistent level of performance over the course of the season.
So there have been 5 centre backs in the United team so far, and there is talk of Eric Lindelof being purchased in the summer. It just feels like, and we spoke about traditions before, and I want to connect this back to that topic. It just seems like the short term solution is to go and buy someone else. I want to really focus on this point. In the last 3-4 years, United have spent probably the most amount of money. They're now on their third manager after Ferguson. Are they? And again, this is nothing wrong with what they're doing, because this is their money, right? So they're not spending someone else's money. But do you think they are kind of walking away from their traditions, the traditions of promoting from within, from having the stability in the club? Do you think? And I'd like to ask Shannon this. Do you think? What United were known for, the core strengths, is kind of eroding away. Shannon?
So I want to start by saying, like, you phrase the question very well, but there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say bias, but it's not very accurate. So United were always a club that promoted from within, but they made sure they had a strong core when they did that, right? And United have always bought players that they thought were United quality. They have never been afraid to spend money. Like the Dennis Law was a record buy at that time. Bobby Charlton was a record. No, not Bobby Charlton. I'm sorry. Brian Robson was a record buy at that time. And then in the 90s you had Andy Cole come in, and so we always had core players, and then we supplemented them with really good buys. And when you think about the last 3-4 years, what happened? You had Ferdinand leave, you had Vidic leave, you had Evra leave, you had Van der Sar retire, you had Scholes retire, you had Giggs retire, Ronaldo left, Tevez left. So you have these world-class players who either moved on or came to the end of their career and weren't as effective. So what do you do at that point? Do you just look at the academy and say these youth players will do a job for me? No, right? You need to replace these world class players like Ferdinand and Vidic, and that's why you need to spend money. Like Ferdinand was a record buy for a defender 10, 12 years ago, and now Luke Shaw is because they have similar potential in terms of how long they last at United. So to say that United all they only played youth teams was a bit of an exaggeration, but they've always promoted from within, but at the same time they've always gone out and bought the best talent.
So, I mean,
And
do
that's
you?
the same principles that are happening right now.
So, Sharan, I'd like to get you in on this. In the last 4 or 5 years, currently there is Rashford and Lingard who are doing pretty well. Do you think it's the lack of continuity of managers that's the reason that in the last 3 4 years there haven't been enough people coming in? So again, from a Chelsea point of view, I'm asking this in terms of one thing that really sucks is how every 2 3 years there's a new manager, right? And when there's that
Hmm.
lack of continuity, you have someone like a Moses who goes out on loan for 3 years, and then another manager likes him and he comes in. So is it the lack of continuity in a manager? What do you think is the reason for suddenly a slightly more amount of money being spent, and anything you'd like to pinpoint?
That is definitely one of the reasons for sure. At United and any other club, there is not enough continuity. Managers do not stick around for long enough to be able to stamp their authority on the club and bring in the kind of players they want to. But the other larger uh, issue I would say is that that's how modern football is now. You've got to buy to get ahead. You've got to buy the best talent around to get ahead. At the same time, at United, I would say the emphasis is still uh, to promote youth as much as possible. The environment for that is not always conducive with managers chopping and changing, with managers bringing in their own players. It's hard to bring in youth and expect them to perform at a certain level when there are lack of leaders in the first team. So I guess finding that right mix of players in the first team has been a big piece of the puzzle that Mourinho has managed to solve now. And now the environment is very good for young players to come in. Now is a good time for young players from the academy to come in and uh, sort of have a nice support system in the main team.
Right.
Anything to add, Siddharth?
Yes. One thing that is worth mentioning, uh, you talk about managers getting sacked. I mean, we're all forgetting that it wasn't just Ferguson who left. It wasn't just David Moyes who left. It wasn't just Van Gaal who left. Post Ferguson, we lost and everything had happened at the same time. Shannon mentioned Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand, Scholes, Giggs, everyone left. We're forgetting that Mike Phelan, Rene Molstein, and David Gill, people who pretty much carried the club for the last, what, 10, 15 years, everyone left. David Gill was in charge of buying players for, since I've known United. Rene Molstein and Mike Phelan have been there forever. Everyone was new. Everyone was new. So you expect things to get unstable. And in today's world, it's a sad reality that, buying is the way to fix it for the short term. And to be very honest, we haven't gone out and splashed the cash for every position. We've tried to buy, core players, and they haven't worked out. To be very honest, so we're still in the rebuilding phase. But after losing whoever we just mentioned, it'll the money spending will happen.
Speaking of players who've carried United for the last 10, 15 years, Shannon, what do you think of Rooney? What do you think is there for him in the next 6 months? He's been a great servant to the club, scored some amazing goals. He now holds the record, as we discussed in the previous podcast. Yeah, what do you think of Wayne Rooney?
Well, as you mentioned, he's been a fantastic servant to the club. And like the people who slate him, I don't understand because at his peak, he was easily like the top five players in the world. Like the pace, the power, the hunger, the determination. He was essentially, for me, he was Alex Ferguson playing on the pitch, right? Like they had the same exact qualities. Um, but every great career comes to an end. Rooney at this point of his career has played more games than Scholes had in his entire career. Right. So
Wow.
though he is a 31-year-old player, he's the mileage on his body is way past 31. Right. It's someone in the mid 30s, and I think that is catching up to him. He's been in the slow decline for a few years now, and I think it is just going to be a very amicable split in the summer. Rooney might go to a foreign league, or step down to maybe Everton. But I think most probably he'll end up in MLS or something. And he can, when he leaves the doors of Old Trafford, people will remember him for years to come. And he can hold his head up high with what he's achieved with the club.
Sid, anything to add real quick?
Yeah. So, I mean, considering the career he has had and what Shannon mentioned, I think he gets to decide what he wants to do next. Honestly, he just has two options: to be a squad player, which Mourinho has clearly told him, or look for first team football elsewhere. Um, I mean, whatever option he chooses, people are still going to worship him. He's been that good for us.
So, speaking of replacing Rooney, there have been talks in the summer of getting Griezmann. Sharan, anything you want to add? Anyone internally who is good enough to be a number 10 for United, or what do you think of Griezmann fitting in there?
I mean, we do have good talent in the squad. We have Mata, we have Mkhitaryan, we have Lingard, who's done a good shift to that position. Signing Griezmann is definitely a signal of intent. Uh, Talking about Rooney, that almost opens up a can of worms, and we might just need a separate episode for Rooney. But so I wouldn't wade in too much into the Rooney argument. I'd just say that he's been a good servant to the club. Way too many miles on his body. And honestly, as a centre forward, I don't see him having his chance over Ibrahimovic and Rashford. As a midfielder, possibly. If he wants to transform his position and his role in the team, I could definitely see him having a few more years at Old Trafford. But if he's adamant on being a striker, and if Mourinho is adamant on playing him as a striker, that's just going to be impossible almost, I feel.
So, what do you think is a good achievement for the rest of the season? Siddharth, there's still two competitions that they're in. They've already won one. Do you think with the amount of fixtures they have left, they can qualify for the top four? What do you think is good? And once again, we've spoken about how Mourinho has always won in his second season. So, what would be a good achievement in this first to be a springboard for the next year?
I think as a club, for Man United and for Mourinho himself, um, the main target for this year is to get back into the Champions League. Now it's up to him to decide what is the best route, whether it's the Europa League or the top four. Because I'll be the happiest person on earth if it happens both ways. But it's difficult with the number of fixtures we have coming up. It's very difficult to win all four. We've already won the League Cup, so I mean, trophies out of the way. An achievement this year would be to get back into the Champions League, whether it happens to the Europa League or the top four.
Shannon, I wanted to just bring you in. What do you think of Ibrahimovic coming in at 35 and carrying a club as good as the way he's been? Tell me a little bit. Give me your thoughts on Ibrahimovic, especially after today.
Well, to be honest, I don't think anyone expected that from him, right? Like, even if he had gotten 20 goals during the entire season, we would have said, okay, he did his job. But we are just at the end of February, he's like got 26 goals in 38 games. And he looked a little knackered though at the end. But he's doing what he was bought to do. I guess Mourinho, noticed that there are enough creative players in the team, but not enough finishers. Rashford is still young; he's still on a learning curve. Martial is good out wide, and Rooney has lost that spark. So he sees Rashford as a long-term fix, but he needed someone to come in for a season or two and bang those goals in, and that's exactly what Ibrahimovic is doing. Most probably he'll be here. I guess it was triggered. He'll be here another season, so it will give Rashford another year to develop further. And if we get Griezmann, I think that'll be the future number 9 and 10 for United for the next 5-6 years.
You asked about Zlatan. I think we all knew what he's going to bring to the club. The only aspect about Zlatan that surprises the world is that no one expected him to play 90 minutes 3 times in 1 week. I think he was the only player who played last weekend Europa League and today 90 minutes. To do that at
I don't think so.
okay,
I
maybe
think he came 60th minute
okay for the last
for Europa League.
for
Yeah.
the Europa League.
Yeah.
But to do that at what age 35, 36 is just phenomenal.
I'm just personally surprised that he has adjusted so well to the physicality of the Premier League. I wouldn't say I didn't expect it. I would just say that I thought it would take a little more time, and it's just amazing what Zlatan has done. Last question to wrap up. What do you, Sharan? I'd like to bring you in. What do you think United need in the summer? What changes do you expect? Who do you think outs and ins? Real quick.
Um, a centre back for sure. I would think that Mourinho would definitely go out and get a quality centre back. I would not be too pleased if it's someone as young as Lindelof, because I would look to get a leader in the defense, someone who can guide the players around him. Um, I'm not sure what his plans are with Carrick, because it looks like he's trying to phase him out slowly, trying to give him a little more reduced role. He still values him in the squad, but there might be a midfield signing, and Griezmann we've all heard about already. So, and it's looking increasingly like it might just happen. So, but I think his priority would be centre back, and God save us if De Gea leaves. Then that's going to be a bit of a problem. But if Madrid keep quiet and look in some other direction, yeah, we should be fine.
I'd rather have them take De Gea than Courtois. But I wanted to Sid, any
Sure.
specific names, any specific names that you think would be a target?
Right, like Sharon mentioned, I think we need three players down the spine: centre back, CDM, and centre forward. I mean, rightly said, Lindelof would be a good buy, but two inexperienced defenders it'll be a bit of a risk. I honestly feel someone like a Van Dijk would be a good fit. He's proven himself in the league for a number of years, and he'll fit straight in with someone like an Eric Bailly. And imagine two beasts at centre back with Bailly and Van Dijk. I don't know who is a good replacement for Carrick, because there's no one else like Carrick. What he does is you can't just replace that brain. And yeah, I mean, centre forward, we would all love Griezmann to come in, but there's a number of names out there.
Any final thoughts, Shannon, on United this year and the summer?
Yeah, as both Sharon and Sid pointed out, right? But for me, more than centre back, more than centre forward, I think at this moment is how to replace Carrick. It's whenever we are unstuck, we just get Carrick in the game, and we either fight back for a draw or for a win. So the biggest challenge this summer for Mourinho especially would be how do you replace someone like Carrick, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. Does he change the way we play, or does he get someone who plays like him? The only other player who has that sense, in the middle of midfield is probably Toni Kroos, and he's nowhere coming to us. So it'll be interesting summer.
Just one last question, Sid. Any comments on standout players? We spoke about Zlatan. What do you think of Herrera stepping up in the center of midfield?
Right, I think he's been the unsung hero. As I said, in the previous podcast, if you take out Ibrahimovic and his goals, I think our best player this season has been Ander Herrera, and he's quietly just done the dirty work, which someone like a Paul Scholes or Roy Keane would do. So I think he's been the standout performer, and thankfully, for the first time, De Gea has not been the player of the season, which is a good thing, because that just shows that the defense and the midfield are doing their job rather than De Gea having to save everything. So Ander Herrera for me this year.
Excellent. To kind of wrap up, I think United have a good spine and a couple of players in the summer, and they will definitely be title contenders next year. Definitely a great club. Thank you to the audience for listening, and thanks to Sharon for joining in for
My
this
pleasure.
special edition. Thank you guys, and look forward to more next time. Goodbye.